think we are live. Welcome to the ADHD Roundtable. This is episode 26. Oh, my kitty cat decided he's going to join us, at least for part of it. This is an open roundtable discussion about ADHD to bring normalcy to neurodiversity while engaging in deep conversations and having fun. One of my favorite questions to ask people as we get started is, what is your current favorite thing about your flavor of ADHD?
I was thinking about this because I watched some of your other episodes. I was expecting this. And currently, my favorite flavor is my independent dance parties, which I will do around my house anytime, especially if I've walked to the refrigerator and can't remember why I'm there, do a little dance party until the thoughts trickle down. But it's also because I just realized how much movement helps me. Like just across the board, moving helps me. And so kind of just letting go and dancing my way through the day, it helps me stay a little more focused and it helps me remember what I've forgotten. And I also think it's really good that I just don't care, kind of letting go of some of those things.
That's awesome.
I'll go ahead and jump in. Since mine is probably a little related, is because I'm in an entirely neurodivergent household. When someone starts singing, which is pretty much anytime someone's home, there's random lines of songs coming out. We've gotten to a point where everyone just starts going. And so there's all sorts of things like songs being made up about the pug to the tune of Tears for Fears, or it just kind of everyone breaks out singing at the same time.
Yes.
I need to come to your house because my kids are like, Mom, you don't have to sing for everything.
Yeah, mine just got over it and joined in.
I'm in the exact opposite boat. I live just in a small apartment. I am the neurodivergent household, and I sing, I beatbox, I just do whatever the heck I want to, but I primarily just yell at my cell phone all day long, and I enjoy it quite a bit.
Never quiet in any of these houses.
No, no point to be. That's boring.
No. Wait, they
amazing.
yell at your household or at your cell phone, like reminders to yourself, or just like, Alexa, do this?
Oh, mine's primarily just because I do content creation all day, so I'm
Okay.
just saying I'm screaming at my cell phone while it's recording, and
Yeah.
that ends up turning into content is primarily what I'm talking about. Not always, though. A lot of the times I'm just sending silly things to my friends.
Yeah.
Amazing. For folks who are tuning in to this is your first episode, if you don't know this about me, I am an ADHD coach who does not have ADHD, but I have my favorite things about ADHD because I have a myriad of ADHDers in my life. And one of my favorite, the sigh was how do I choose? There's so many lovely things about ADHD that I enjoy. One of my favorite things is the watching an ADHDer process something, because the way that they I will sit next to somebody who's reading the same email as me, and they have captured the whole thing as if they were taking a picture of it, and I'm still on sentence one. I don't, and not every ADHDer works that way. It's always different, but the way that you take in information with all of your senses at once, and then and then spit it out in a way that's exactly what I needed, that would have taken me 3 weeks to do, and it took you 30 seconds, is just incredible. So good. Uh, okay. So those are some fun things about ADHD. What is something that has felt really challenging about ADHD as of late?
Oh.
do you want to throw to who you want to ask the question to first, or should we just all like assume that it's the first person and we should all blurt out the answer to see who lands first? Like, I'm sorry, that is
Go.
just it's something that's on my mind, and I just
That's
want
a
to.
great. Normally, I let whoever has the answer first because some people need to process and some people are like, oh, um, but let me just pick. Kate, you want to go first?
Oh, sure. I know what I like the least. I think it's actually the same thing that gives me the ability to visualize websites like almost in entirety in my head, but I have absolutely no sense of direction. There's even like a
Mm.
word for it called directional agnosia. It's kind of a weird subtype of dyscalculia, which is common in ADHD and brain damage. So, that's fun. I don't think it's brain damage, but I can get lost if I am not paying like full attention. And as you can
Yeah.
imagine with ADHD, unless I'm hyper fixated, I'm not paying full attention almost all the time.
Yeah. Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I get lost really easily.
One of my good friends, same, recently diagnosed ADHD, not surprising. But before the era of like GPS and maps, she inevitably would end up at the airport, like every time she could get to the airport. And so we finally, everyone wrote her like an index card with directions from her house to our house and from the airport to our house. So she could like index card her way because she kept getting to the airport. Now, GPS maps, everything has changed that. But
Mhm.
yeah, it was like her ability to get lost is impressive. So I
Yeah, and
give
it's
that to
not
you.
like I don't understand how maps work. It's not like I
Mhm.
can't recognize landmarks. It's the connection points between them that get stuck. So unless
Mm.
that gets down into long-term memory, it is non-existent.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Thank you,
I'll go,
GPS.
even though you didn't call on me because it's somewhat related. I have no sense of time, massive, massive time blindness. It is gone. I have no idea if 5 minutes have passed or 20 minutes have passed. And so the hard part of that, especially with kids going different places, is I can never judge how long it's going to take me to drive somewhere. And so anytime I want to go somewhere, it's a math problem. Okay, look up on the map. That's a 12-minute drive. Okay, I need to add in the 10 minutes it'll take to get everyone gathered to the car. And then parking's going to take another 3. And then it's probably like a 4-minute walk. And I have to like fully do a math equation every single time to get where I'm going, which then means if a plan changes, I'm like, oh my God, I can't, like, I have to reprocess this entire thing. It's really challenging for me. And it's also one of those things you think everyone's brain is like your brain. I didn't quite realize like how intensely bad it was till a couple years ago. I was doing something and I was like to my husband, oh gosh, okay, so I need to do it. And he's like, well, you need to leave in 10 minutes. And I was like, how did you know that? I have to like do all of this work here. So I don't get lost when I'm going there, but I have no idea how long it's going to take me to get there.
Yeah. It's a lot of executive processing to do all of that every time. But also like retaining that is your brain is like, I don't need that information.
No, and like recognizing it, the hack I use now is we have a whiteboard calendar on our
Mhm.
fridge, and I write down on it what time we need to leave. Not what
Nice.
time I need to be there, but what time I need to leave. And so for some things that happen every week, it can just stay up there. And then the other things I can just on Sunday, I sit down and calculate everything. So then I don't have to do it throughout the week, which again adds to if it changes, I get stressed out. But
Mm.
yeah, I just had to embrace, like you said, I won't retain it. It doesn't matter if I've driven there 12 times. It's
Mhm.
not going to
It's
happen.
just a blank, like it does not exist.
Yep.
How about for you, Matt?
For me, it's probably just like the regulation piece that comes with ADHD. So, like, a big thing for me is I don't take medication. I did for 9 years for what it's worth. I'm not pro holistic compared to medication. I just chose my battle. I chose my path. Just to kind of give that disclaimer out of the way. But one of the hard parts that comes with being holistic and having a brain with regulation issues is getting the regulation, and more so just convincing myself that I should be regulated in the morning. It's one of the most interesting things that I've discovered on the journey of myself is if I do the thing, I get happy, I get healthy, I can concentrate, like I can feel those good feelings. But every morning I wake up and I'm like, I'm sad, I suck, and I can't concentrate. And it's like it's figuring out the battle the first hour of the day of going, do the thing, it's gonna work. And I'm like, it's not gonna work if I do the thing. And then I do the thing and it works. But it's that battle that I think forever is going to be my villain in my story for how I perceive ADHD.
Mm. Okay, this is something I've been thinking a lot about lately, and I'm curious to ask you all about it. I feel like the term regulation or dysregulation is used everywhere all the time, and maybe that's some of what the algorithm is showing me because everybody thinks I have ADHD. But
Well, it's your world, so.
yes, it is my world. So maybe I'm seeing it more often than other people, but I feel like people also use that word in different contexts. So for you, what does regulation mean to you personally? Matt, you want to go first?
Um, for me, regulation, I see it super blunt, if I'm totally honest. I try and not see like through the fine lines. I don't need to make it pretty. It just means get my car full of gas
Mm,
in every way possible. If you put too much gas in the tank, it doesn't work as well. If you put only a little bit in, it's going to start running on fumes. And there's just like a simple idea that your car drives best when it's at half a tank. No, that's not true in the automotive industry. That is just the simple way that I think about regulation. Just try and get enough to get through the next couple of hours, and plan your life accordingly. That's kind of the way that I see it. Provided that I get $20 worth of gas and drive $20 worth of distance, and I continuously have that loop, that's regulation to me. That's how I get from the start of my day to the end of my day. I also said that very fast, so please check me if I talk too fast. That's something I recognize about myself.
I caught all of it. Uh, How about you, Becky?
Um, I did not come up with this. This is from the wonderful creators at Autism Level Up. But when your energy matches the activity, because what regulation looks like, say, at bedtime, I take a long time to wind down. I really need a long time in like dimmer lights and quiet activities and gentle movement of my body. That's a very regulated state for me versus when I'm, trying to get the kids out the door, my energy level needs to be higher to do all the things that I need to do and move at the speed that I need to do. So regulation is just when there's a match between energy and activity, whatever that may be.
Mm. How about for you, Kate?
I think I kind of get my idea a little bit more from the early childhood education because I really discovered the ADHD world, including my own self, through a young child who got diagnosed. And then they're like, oh, have you ever looked at yourself? Um, which happens to a lot of parents. But I just, in a lot of ways, I think of it like, are things working or are things not working? Are things falling apart? That is clear dysregulation. Like I take a very low dose of Ritalin, and if I take that, I work much smoother. If I don't take it, I don't necessarily always fall apart, but I'll notice myself essentially spinning in circles, and I sometimes that could mean in place, yes. Usually it means walking around the house in circles and not actually finishing the thing I'm starting and realizing that I have now done like, you know, 4 laps when all I needed was a glass of water and I still don't have the glass of water. And then I'm like, maybe I should take a pill and regulate my system in order to finish getting a drink of water and hydrate myself. It's just, yeah, is it working or is it not working?
I
Cool.
have to say, this is not your line of questioning, but I am finding this fascinating that Kate, I am identifying with so much of what you're saying, and Matt, so much of what you're saying reminds me of my son. And I'm like, are these gender differences, brain differences? This is a very small sample size, but it is just fascinating listening to both of you and being like, that's me, that's my son.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
It's funny. I get a lot of comments from people. The social media places is where I get a lot of the marketing that I do for my business, but then it's also where I'm well known from. And I get a lot of comments of people saying exactly things like that. People say, "Oh my God, you're describing me." And one of my favorite answers to always give them is I always say, "Actually, I'm describing me. Isn't it just crazy that you're less alone than you think?"
Oh,
And I always think it's so neat because a lot of the times, yeah, you just talk about I get up, I do a couple of laps around the kitchen, and then I still didn't get some water. You just described like a million people in the U.S. alone. It's so crazy how many people have just never said that out loud because they'd be made fun of or they'd be made felt uncomfortable. I love like the not alone piece that's a part of ADHD right now. I think it's one of the most important reason why everybody should speak about it as much as possible because you never know when there's a parent that doesn't know they have it and then you start talking to their kid and they go, "Wait a minute, what'd you say about the thing with the brain? What?" And I think it's a beautiful thing. So yeah, anyways, that's my
yeah.
yeah.
No, I totally agree that the sharing piece is so important and the normalizing it and that I like to say it's very morally neutral. There's
Hmm.
no, it's not right or wrong. It just is.
Hmm.
But the more that you know about it, like again, for me, when I realized time blindness was a thing and not just that I was a bad person because I couldn't be on time, then I was like, oh, this is actually a thing my brain doesn't do. And now I can put coping mechanisms into place and I'm don't run late all the time anymore. Amazing. But I had to actually like learn that. So yeah, the talking about it and sharing, I agree. It's so important.
So
Yeah.
cool.
And to your point of like gender difference, yes, and like there's different flavors. I have met people of different genders who have similar flavors of ADHD, which I find like that's really fun for me is when I'm like, "Ooh, this flavor and this flavor, oh, they're pretty similar." They said that, like sometimes when it's saying the almost same exact sentence, I'm like that deja vu kind of feeling that I have sometimes is very fun. I used to be married to somebody with ADHD, and every time I meet somebody who has a similar flavor of ADHD to him, I just like, uh, this will sound weird, but warms my heart because I'm actually friends with my ex-husband. It's a whole thing. Um, but yeah. Uh, okay, so I would love to hear a little bit about your journey to discovering, learning that you have ADHD, whether you are actually diagnosed or not. Everybody's journey is very different, and that's part of what I love to share on here is so that people understand like there's no one right or wrong way to get to that conclusion. So, Becky, you want to go first?
Yeah. So my oldest, he's 10. He was diagnosed autistic young, and I recognize that very early on. I'm an occupational therapist, so I recognize his sensory needs. And then ADHD was added on later to his diagnosis. And so as I was, reading, learning about his brain, trying to help him, I started being like, oh, oh, oh. I've shared this with you before, Jess. I started like taking all the online quizzes and like really putting pieces together. And it was this like big deal in my head. Oh my God, I think this is me. I'm like reflecting on my entire childhood through this different lens. And I went to my husband and, we've been together a million years. And I was like, babe, I really think I have ADHD. And he looked at me and in the most kind and loving way goes, duh. It's like, oh yeah, okay, that's just me. Like it's the same thing I tell parents. Like your kid is still the same person. You just have a better insight into their brain. My husband's like, of course you are. Hello, have you ever talked to yourself? Yes, this is part of you. And I think upon further reflection also, and it's funny, I haven't put this together further or earlier, but my entire family jokes, my dad is undiagnosed ADHD too. And so I also think that normalized a lot of the things, the like never being able to find your shoes and always running late and never knowing where your keys are. That was just such a normal part of my childhood. Conversations that ping pong around and us bickering in the car. And, that was normal to me. And so it took me actually reading the signs to be like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, totally. This tracks. And again, that has been so helpful for me because some of the things that I did really feel like was a problem of mine or morally bad or whatever, I can now recognize that's just the way my brain is working, and I can put compensatory strategies into place, and I can lean into the parts of ADHD that are more fun, my little dance parties or my multitasking to keep all my brains happy. And yeah, so I think it's been overall a really good journey for me. It does help that I have such a supportive husband, and we were already going through this with my son, and I've felt no shame because I think I was already so deeply entrenched in the neurodivergent world with my son that it's been like, yeah, cool. This is just another part of me.
That's beautiful.
That's very beautiful.
How about
I'm
you,
lucky.
Kate?
I acknowledge how lucky and grateful I am. Yeah.
How about for you, Kate?
So I have some similarities in there. The fact that I also have a neurodivergent 10-year-old. Um, and he was a really delayed talker. So we first got it diagnosed with an expressive receptive language delay. Jeez, what a diagnosis about not talking. You can't say it. But anyway, through that process, after going through like developmental preschool and everything, right around 4, which is a more common time for kind of trying to whittle down that diagnosis for a lot of people. They're like, well, is it ADHD or autism? And I'm like, I really don't think he's on the spectrum. I'm like, I don't mind. I don't care. It would be wonderful to get a diagnosis of anything to help us. But I'm like, it just doesn't fit the criteria. And through this process, we spent 3 weeks talking online. Thank you, pandemic. 3 weeks talking online with a psychiatrist who specialized in determining the correct diagnosis for my child. And he's like, have you ever maybe like thought that you might be ADHD? And I'm like, what? Me? I'm normal. I'm totally normal. I'm just like my family. Okay. So I was just like my family. But pretty much everything checked all the boxes. So I tried to get my own psychiatrist when I first moved into town here. And the guy's like, oh, yeah, you check all of the boxes for the ADHD assessment, but you're too successful. You can't have ADHD. So he tried to give me antidepressants and told me I was just too anxious.
Oh,
So I
Lordy.
said, I don't think that's correct. And then I found a correct psychiatrist who was like, let's just try it and see if this helps. And like, it's been insane. Like, my anxiety's dropped so much with the correct support. I'm also of, I don't think you should or shouldn't be against medication. I think you should be for what is right for you. And if medication is wrong for you, it's wrong. If it's right for you, it's right. The whole point is you want to get to that point of regulation, and however you get there is the right path. And yeah, so then I'm like, oh, goodness, yeah. And then I did the same thing. I'm like, hey, did you guys know that I might be ADHD? And everyone's like, and so there you go.
Congratulations on advocating for yourself and getting a new psychologist. That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if it doesn't feel right, find someone who feels right.
Yeah.
Yes. How about for you, Matt? What was your journey like?
For me, I'll have a very different story to opt in here, because I had everyone and their mother yelling at me, "You have ADHD," and I went, "I don't care." And that was a big part of my story. I had I had the quote unquote privilege of being the very stereotyped person that was ADHD in the earlier 2000s. I was a young white male. That was, 95% of who was being diagnosed at that time. And I did the very standard thing that every young white male does that has ADHD to induce a diagnosis. I got angry at my teacher one day and I threw a backpack at her. And then I had some anger management people assess me and throw me in front of a bunch of doctors. It was pretty easy. They gave me everything I need. They spoon fed it, no problem. It was streamlined. Very, very good system for me at the time. Now I say it all that way, of course, for a reason. I'm not just, saying the most privileged nonsense ever. It was so streamlined during a time where there was no information on ADHD. And where I say no, I don't mean there wasn't any. I mean none relevant to today's standards of what we understand about ADHD. What I mean by that is my doctor got me on medication the very second they could when I was 12 years old. And when it showed even the first sign of helping me. My parents went, "We like this. We're going to stay here." And then as I grew up and the symptoms started coming back, I started getting used to the medication. My parents went, "The medication works. Raise the dosage. Raise the dosage. Raise the dosage." And during this time, I had the ultimate ADHD accommodations at the time. I got a laptop, and I got, against my will, I was put into special education when I was younger. I didn't need it. I actually had very decent grades. I just got very bored in class. Looking back on it, I do understand the decision still, if I'm completely honest. But I got moved into a room with only 6 children for the rest of my school career, because I lived in a small town and I was on more than double the legal limit of ADHD medication today. I was on 90 milligrams of Adderall by the time that I was a teenager. Um,
Wait,
that's where
okay.
that
As a person who's not on medication, and even though I know some of it, you said that 90 milligrams is double the legal limit.
correct,
So
yeah.
the highest that someone would be on is 45.
Right.
Wow.
After that, it's morally incorrect to give
Wow.
someone stimulants because you don't need to stimulate a brain that hard. That does more harm than good. So that's
Wow.
why they do that. But at the time, they didn't know that. So I
Right.
was very unhappy to be a test subject during that time, during my hormonal phases of life, during a lot of really rough things. And I come from a traditional European family, even though I'm Canadian. My dad tried to smack the depression out of me, and every single time I acted up in front of my mom, she just went, "He's hungry." And that's all I ever got for any of it. To this day, they have not read a single book on ADHD. My father still thinks that I scam people on the internet for money because I talk to ADHD people, and it's an interesting dynamic. But the part of it all is that while I did have the privilege of getting the diagnosis and the medication early, a big part of my journey was that I had a family that couldn't care, wouldn't care, and didn't try to care. And that's where it led me into a lot of difficulties because anytime that, and by the way, please cut me off if I'm talking too long about this. I enjoy telling the story. Um, anytime that I ever acted up in class, anything like that. And by the way, at this point, I want to say this for any parents listening, I didn't care. When everyone said you had ADHD, take this pill, I just went, can I play PlayStation? And that is what a kid is supposed to be doing. I find that there's a lot of parents out there. I just need to give this disclaimer quickly. There's a lot of parents that are trying to make their kids recognize their neurological indifferences. And it's the difficult road to go down because that kid just wants to have some fun. They just want to be normal. They want to be like everybody else. And that was very much my boat. And every single time that I tried to have fun, people would just go, "Have you taken your pills today?" And where this led me, which is a very, very big part of why I do a lot of public speaking now. This is a big part of the story that I tell. What I learned was drugs were the answer.
Mm.
And when I became of age, the things that were being held from me, and I will say them lightly of saying things like drugs, alcohol, skipping class, doing all of the bad things. All of a sudden, that was the answer. Every single time that I drank, all of a sudden, the girls that I was super terrified of were willing to talk to me, and I was willing to talk to them, which was I was like mute to women. I was terrified of them. No other reason. I was just an anxious kid. But all of a sudden, I had the will to talk to people. When I smoked weed, people wanted to hang out with me. And what I learned from as early as 14 years old, I developed a drug and alcohol addiction. It became a very, very tough part of my life. And again, at this point, I wasn't recognizing my ADHD. I was recognizing that I was sad. And you know what made me happy was doing certain things that made me happy. And I only found them in community and people that cared, people that drink, especially when they're kids. You develop a brotherhood. You develop this like beautiful partying secret society. Parents can't know about this. And it became the place where I really devote a lot of my time, and it led to some tough times throughout my life. It
Mm.
took me longer than most kids to graduate high school. Again, I was in special education and it wasn't challenging whatsoever. So I literally just didn't go to class. I didn't care to. It took me 5 years to graduate high school. After I was out of high school, I gained over 100 pounds. And I continued on only trying harder drugs, only going through worse things in life. And I'm not telling anybody here that this is what's going to happen to their children if you medicate them. I want to make that clear. That is my story. That is not unique to the child, but it was definitely what I learned going back to myself during the story, was that I really thought that as long as I take things, people like me. And that's what was demonstrated to me over and over again. And that's the scary part that I like to make sure I include in this. What changed everything? And just to try and wrap it up, I could talk about this for the rest of the darn hour, honestly. I'm sorry if it's too long. What changed everything though was actually it was the same week that Spotify introduced podcasts. And I remember this because at the time, I was just a simple grass cutter. I was in a landscaping company. My father always told me, and this is, I'm kind of leaning towards a pain thing here, but my dad always told me, "You're not built for anything academic. Don't go to college. Don't try. Just go join a trade and drink with everybody else." And that's what I did. I did it, and I actually did pretty good with it, I'll be honest. But I remember that I was so sick of listening to music because I listen to music all day, every day. So I remember when podcasts got introduced, I was like, two people talking? That sounds stupid, but I'm going to try it. And I just started looking up, I don't know, I'm fat. I felt fat. So I looked up podcasts and I said, is there ones on diet? And I happened, this was the moment that changed so much of my life without me meaning for it to. I saw something that said diet and ADHD.
Mm,
And I couldn't believe it. And if I could say why, it's because I'm the only person in the world with ADHD at this time.
mm,
This was still, like probably 2013, 2014, something around there. And at the time, I'd never met another person with ADHD. I've never been around somebody. I grew up in a town of 4,000 people. I went to a school of 400 kids. Having ADHD really singled you out. And all of a sudden, there was a podcast that said, if you have ADHD, you might be a little bit kooky. And there was a dude talking that was just as fast as I did. It was Peter Shankman, the author of Faster Than Normal. If you guys have ever read that book, it's amazing. I really love that book. And Peter said during it, he talked about the difference in what happens when you just move your body, what happens when you just simply stimulate your brain, when you do the things that get your brain regulated. And he said something that I'll never forget. He said, "Have you ever felt smart? Have you ever felt capable of doing things and yet everyone else is just telling you that you're the dumb one? Have you ever felt like you actually can do things and actually pretty well, just not most of the time? What if I told you that you could feel that way all the time? Would you be willing to put in the work?" And there was something about me that while I screwed up a lot, the things that I did well, I did extraordinarily well. And I listened to Peter Shankman in that moment and I said, I want to learn more. And I read every word that he wrote. And then I discovered people like Dr. Russell Barkley and so many amazing people in the space that have just started publishing papers left, right, and center. And what happened, this all led me to the moment that I'll never forget. And it was the day that I fell asleep sober for the first time in 6 years.
wow.
When I woke up that next day, I'm going to cut it off here because I know I'm taking up way too much time and I apologize greatly. Um, but there was a night where I accidentally fell asleep before I could do more drugs. I was planning to. It was a huge deal, but I'll never forget. I said it to my girlfriend at the time. I said, "Hold on a second. Before I do more drugs, I want to stretch my body for 10 minutes and get some water because I know it's really important for an ADHD brain to stay stretched and hydrated." I'll
What's
never
your
forget.
favorite exercise?
That is exactly what I said to her, and I'll never forget. That was my pre-let's do drugs statement to make. And then I
Wow.
started stretching and I fell asleep. And I woke up the next day and I went, I need to figure out what the hell just happened to me. And it led me to caring about my brain. And that's the beginning to the story.
Wow.
That is wild to me, just reflecting on my journey as a parent versus your journey being parented. And I don't know if it's where I live or the knowledge base I have, but I feel it's ADHD is viewed so differently. I know a billion children who are ADHD,
Hmm.
especially boys, diagnosed sooner generally because of the movement. Yeah, it's just wild. Your story is not that long ago. You're not that old. And it's so different in just 10, 15 years
Hmm.
time. Yeah.
It's it's one of the parts that I actually think is amazing about right now. Everyone has the I'm late diagnosed story. But the thing is, that means that we're all diagnosed at the same time and we're all learning. Because everybody that was diagnosed, I really believe this in like the 80s, 90s, or early 2000s. Like I was diagnosed in, what would that have been, 2004. And during that time, it was recognized as brain damage. You guys can look it up if you didn't know that one. It is really interesting. It was being transitioned out of being referred to as brain damage. during 2004. It's incredible what's happened in this amount of time. So there's a lot of people that live with that regret right now, of going, if I only was diagnosed 20 years sooner, and I'm here to tell you it wasn't that
Maybe not.
great. Yeah.
Maybe
It's,
not.
I think it's a beautiful thing that we're all in right now because not only are we, in my mind, we're the first generation of people to care, to understand, to learn the strategies, but we are also the last generation that are probably going to do the harmful thing with our children. The information is coming out, the studies have been done, the ability to have a kid with a regulated brain is here now, as opposed to before where we just kind of thought we did. And I
Mm.
think that's a really cool place to be in. There's a lot of people that are scared with their kids right now. And the only advice that we need to give them right now is just make sure that you're reading about it. Make sure that you're paying attention, and you will learn more than our parents ever could. There's a
Yeah.
lot of people that are really scared. I'm terrified of people going through what I went through when I was a kid, and I can't imagine even being, sooner than that. It's all like there's just so much neglect to the brain that didn't have to be there. This is the last generation of them. So our job to all of us that are being diagnosed right now, with ADHD is just to simply open a book. It's just to simply understand what protein and fiber does, what moving your body does, what having fun does for your brain. We have a neurological condition that the one of the best treatments is to have fun. That is really cool and really amazing. And if we figure this out, 10 years from now, it's going to be incredible. I think ADHD will be looked at as a brain type and not as a disorder anymore. And that's a personal opinion. I can't back it up with fact, but I think that's where we're going, and I think it's really neat. I know a lot of extraordinary people with ADHD, and I love that. I love it beyond belief. Anyways, I'm sorry. I'm getting ranty.
Oh, it's so good. Um, okay. One of one of the things, and I don't know if there's a word for this, but people with ADHD tend to feel deeper than maybe people who are neurotypical, right? So when you say I feel sad, it's like I feel sad. Like it's much deeper. Like I feel scared. It's like I'm terrified. I feel joyful, like I'm elated, right? Like it's just more. Um, so w when you are in a place where you're feeling really deeply in a way that's maybe not the way you want to be feeling, maybe it feels negative, how do you move yourself through to something else?
Oh, I've got this one because they taught it to my son at school.
Yeah.
Um, he tells me that when you're feeling dysregulated and you can't pull yourself back together or you're feeling things too deeply, you need to consider your amygdala and how your amygdala is helping to regulate your emotions. And that if you name your amygdala, it can really help you teach it how to focus and calm down. And then you practice your deep breaths, your arm squeezes. Sometimes you need to go to a chill out room for a minute to get yourself back together. He named his amygdala Warrior. I think I named mine Chill because I needed to chill. Um, and it works.
My son named his chicken because it squawks at him. It's his chicken. That's so funny that that's like a taught thing.
And it works by
Yeah.
recognizing their brain chemistry instead of just being told they're behaving badly. Our children are getting the tools to actually change that behavior before it becomes fully disruptive and before it becomes a problem because they're not being blamed. Like, I cannot remember how many times I got nicknamed or yelled at or told I was too much because I blurted or because I saw a connection on some gossip that was not supposed to come out of my mouth, very much not supposed to come out of my teenage mouth. It does not make you popular, but knowing that there are tools to do as opposed to a personality flaw, I think is really one of the keys to regulation, is understanding you just got to calm down the piece of your body that's not functioning right. If you had a muscle cramp, would you say that's a flaw in your personality? No, it's a brain cramp.
Mm.
And I like with my own child, we talk a lot about our energy, not our emotions, because emotions are so nebulous. And honestly, we all feel emotions differently. A nervous to me might have a different body sensation than nervous to you, but energy feels really neutral and not judgmental at all. So when he is getting especially wild and maybe moving into being dangerous, it's so much better for both of us if I'm like, wow, dude, your energy's big. Go out and run around, instead of like, you're out of control. Settle down, kid, or get out of here, Dude, go move your body. Your energy's really big right now.
Mhm.
Which helps for him because he tends to go big energy. One thing, I was recently at this workshop and talking about rest, and the woman said, and I have not backed up the research on this, but she said your emotional response is about 90 seconds. After that, it's a cognitive response. And that was huge to realize, especially the ability to perseverate, that I actually have to talk myself through it sometimes, be like, whoa, I'm spinning and I'm perseverating. And this is now me just replaying the conversation over and over and over. And I am continuing this emotional cycle. So like, hard stop, move on, brain, something else. Maybe I need to come back to it later. Maybe I need to write it down. If it's something I do need to actually address or deal with, writing it down helps me a lot, getting the spinning out of my head, but actually like physically making an effort to just not let, I call them spinny thoughts, not have my spinny thoughts anymore. And yeah, writing has been huge for me, just jotting it down. Okay, it's out of my head. I'm not going to forget it. I don't need to keep thinking about it. Move on in my day. And then have a dance party.
I find writing when I need to helpful, and I'm also a professional writer, so this makes it funny. I don't like writing about my own feelings. I like writing things you need me to write. But writing when I'm emotional, yes, that can help. But people would try to tell me, why don't you just journal daily? And like, I
Oh,
cannot
no.
do a 7-day streak on a goddamn thing to save my life. It's more challenge to do the 7-day streak. Now there's all this pressure on. I mean, those 30-day sit-up challenges, dear God. It's not happening. I'll miss a day and then the whole thing's reset and I have to start over because I have to do it perfect. And
I'm going to
yeah,
scribble it on a
forced
post-it note.
journaling does not help me, but emotional journaling can, yes.
Yeah.
What about for you, Matt?
Um, you guys covered like 90% of the bases that I would say. For me, if you want to add a little bit more playfulness into it, I'm really big on outfit changes. I'm really big on scenery changes. So for me, I'm a huge fan of just the simplicity that if I am starting to get uncomfortable working and I'm in the t-shirt that I'm in right now, I'll go and switch over to a sweater. Sometimes if I need to feel a little bit more professional, if I'm writing a paper, let's say, I'll go and switch over to a golf shirt and I'll make it a golf shirt that has a memory behind it. Something like that I think is really awesome. Shirts that I've spoken on stage with in professional conferences, something like that, just to make me feel like I am a professional. It doesn't matter that I'm in my bedroom. Because that's the working from home terrible feelings. Other than that, I'll do that to any sense. I'll change around the lighting that I have around me. I'll change around what I'm listening to. If it's concentration sounds, maybe I can listen to drum and bass. Maybe I can listen to, some light rock music. What can I change around what I can see, taste, smell, hear, and feel? Is the last one. And I find that it really signals to your brain, it signals to your nervous system, something's happening. And I think we're in control of it. And that's what I think is really neat. So that's all I'll add to that.
I like the term scenery change because going for a walk is like such a huge coping skill of mine and my son's. And I think I attribute that to the physical effort, but it is like, it's something new to look at. And especially if I add in like, hey, let's take a minute and appreciate the beautiful clouds right now. It is such a good reset for your brain.
Absolutely. I'm a huge fan, and also like the way that it trains your brain from like a cortisol perspective, of when we get out of our home, when we get away from our screens, you're teaching your brain that it's not in control of everything. There's a massive difference on what happens to your eyes when it perceives a screen that if, I don't like the pimple on the left side of this person's face, I can wiggle my finger and it goes away. If I want to laugh, I can wiggle my finger until I start laughing. If I want to be educated and I don't even know what to be educated on, I can wiggle my finger, I can check my text, I can do whatever. Even to go around your house, I know where the food is, I know where my parents are, I know these kind of things. But when you go outside, your eye starts going, that leaf is moving. I didn't know it was going to do that. There's a dog walking. I didn't expect to see a dog today. And what your brain will actually start to do, without talking about the terminology behind it, your brain is going to start to prepare itself and go, I don't know what's next. And it actually will help lower the amount of anxious thoughts that you can have. And I think that's so important. I think nature, going outside, seeing unpredictable sight, is something so important for ADHD brains. So I'm just throwing that in there.
Mhm.
And one thing I want to add too is all these beautiful humans are talking from a place of practice. And so if you are new to this journey and this is something that might feel hard, or like, pick one thing and practice it for a while, and fuck consistency. The like, who cares if it's 7? No, like, the persistence is the thing that matters the most, even if it's every 6 months you're like, oh yeah, I wanted to do that thing. um but also the really fucking wild thing about brains is, like, sometimes your brain will be like, that thing that they just talked about, it's too simple to be effective, so I'm not going to do it.
Hmm.
Or I just said the thing, so that counts as doing it. Neither of those things are true. Until you actually do the simple thing, will it be effective. So actually practice it, do the thing, test it out. Some of the simple things might not work for you, but you don't know that until you've actually tried it. It's like, how do you know if you don't like broccoli if you've never tried it before? It's like, you got to try it and actually do it before you can figure out if it works for you or not. So
Hmm.
that's my little 2 cents about that.
I love
Um,
that.
uh, we have some really, really cool humans here. So I would love for you all to, like, introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do, or like shamelessly plug whatever it is that you want to plug. Kate, you want to go first?
Sure. So I'm a full-time freelance digital person who does a little bit of everything. I mostly work with nonprofits, helping build their systems, websites, and events. I write articles for magazines, mostly in child and parenting spaces. I used to write a lot about food, and that was cool because they gave me free foods to try a lot. Um, and I'm currently working on a fiction book, Querying, and it's about punk rock fairies in South Dakota. So if that appeals to anyone, it's a niche area. Um,
That's very
very
cool.
neurodivergent found family story, but um, yeah, and I work from home in Vancouver, and I spend the rest of my time being a mom.
Very cool. Vancouver, Washington.
Vancouver, Washington. Yes. We're gonna get in the rivalry here on that one. You're first. We're first.
Matt, you want to go next?
Sure. So my name is Matt Ragelboom. I have been in this space professionally for a little over 5 years now. I'm an internationally known keynote speaker, and I tell people about not only do I go around sharing my story and how I understood my brain, but I also share with my storytelling skills. I share very, very intricate, very unique ways to understand the ADHD brain that are just different from the scientific approach, while being backed by my background in neurobiology, positive psychology, and behavioral science. It's not fun fact about it. I actually ended up dropping out of school to pursue my career full time early because everything took off in a very crazy way thanks to COVID, during the TikTok boom. During that time, I ended up getting 100,000 followers within 3 weeks of just simply putting out ADHD information on the internet, and it started a very interesting life where I've spoken on stages such as Harvard University, Instagram headquarters, the International ADHD Conference, Canadian ADHD Conference, ICANN, Neurodiversion, and so many other really amazing, beautiful opportunities that I've had to share why I'm so passionate about this space. I am an influencer on every single platform. I don't enjoy the term influencer. It bothers the living heck out of me. Everything I do is riddled with science and very, very fun during that. My full-time thing that I do, just in case anybody is interested, I run a platform known as Matt Rakelboom's Friendly Neighborhood. And in there is the friendliest place on the internet where we learn about our brains together. It's a community-driven platform that has accountability calls on a weekly basis, as well as group coaching events, all for an incredibly affordable price. The whole point of the entire thing is just to give back to the neurodivergent community. We're looking at funding speaking events all around North America right now and doing a lot of really, really cool things for this entire community. I love what I do. I'm very passionate. I'm very happy to be here.
That's very cool. If you don't follow Matt on social media, I highly recommend. He's got some great content.
Thank you.
Becky.
I don't do much in the digital world, unlike you two. Um, I'm an occupational therapist and I have a business, Sensory Home Solutions. I help people modify their homes and routines from a sensory standpoint. So I do kind of a one-time, more intense intake and visit either in person or virtual. And then I give people a hopefully very easy to follow, written step by step, nice and easy, take it at your pace, ideas of modifying your home and routine to better meet sensory needs. It's interesting. I started my business more from OT and parenting standpoint, knowing what it's like being an overwhelmed parent and trying to figure out how to support your kids. But as we've discovered, a lot of neurodivergent kids have neurodivergent parents. And so I often end up really supporting the entire family and figuring out parental sensory needs as well. And I've even had some adult clients. So it's really fun. I love their creativity and it gives me time to bounce around with my own kids too, which I appreciate.
Cool. I know that you're in Oregon. Can you
Yes.
work with people outside of Oregon?
Mm-hmm. I will meet virtually, and especially because I also do like playroom design with sensory gym kind of stuff. So
What?
I can
That's so cool.
yeah, it's so
Sorry.
fun. It's so fun. Every house needs a swing, just my humble opinion. And especially that's super easy to do just with pictures and measurements. Again, I'm old school. I'm so not graphic. I literally, my first playroom client, I was literally like cutting out little squares of furniture and moving it around on graph paper because I also need that like tactile creativity of doing it. And then I was like, I will draw this out and send a picture to you. So one of these days I'll get more digital, but for now, I still like old school.
That's awesome.
Awesome. I'm just a Bose, and I'm an ADHD coach, and there are myriad of ways for people to work with me. I think the thing that I would love to talk about today is I have a course called Rest Like a Rebel, the 7 types of rest for ADHDers who don't want to sit still, because in general, people suck at resting. But also basically the only way we talk about resting is like sleeping or sitting still, which is like not helpful. So there are lots of different ways to rest. We've named many of them in this whole video. One of the ways we talked about like changing scenery, going for a walk, putting on different clothes, like lots of this could be considered also rest. But a lot of it is usually like the intention. And so on my course, there's different ways to go through it. I recognize that giving an ADHD course and expecting you to go through it yourself is it can be done. And also you get plenty of text reminders from me to remind you that you have it so that it doesn't get lost. But you can also set up time where you're like getting some coaching from me while you're going through it. So it depends on how you want to go through the course yourself. There's different ways to do that. But in the meat of the content, there's like if you go to physical rest, it'll have like what is physical rest? How do I physically rest? What are some experiments I can try in this place? And then there's a message from I call her Crafty Bitch. Crafty Bitch is my inner roommate, inner critic, whatever you want to call them. Mine is called Crafty Bitch. A Crafty Bitch will show up in her own little outfit and give you a talking to, but it's mostly funny and silly. And just a reminder that you don't have to like listen to all of the things that this person is saying. And or maybe that person, that inner critic is just trying to keep you safe. Like there's lots of things about all of that. But so it's supposed to be fun and also help you like learn how to implement rest in your life in a way that actually works for your brain.
Tess, I love that coming from the world as a parent also. I freaking hate the culture that's popped up of like self-care all the time because I'm like, I cannot go out and get a massage. I don't have childcare. I don't have the money. Da, 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 da. And so for me, rest often does look like taking a walk while my kids are at a playground or something. And I just am loving this movement that it doesn't need to be a spa day or sleeping in to still be like really important and valuable and helpful.
Yeah, and then like creative rest. It's like
Yes.
coloring or making a little art project with no like this is the final thing I'm gonna sell. Like that's not rest. And
Yes.
again, it's that like, oh yes, just because you're neurodivergent doesn't mean all of your hobbies all of a sudden need to become something that you sell, and then it becomes a whole thing. You have to have outlets where it's just, this is restful for me. And
I love
that's,
baking cookies just to bake cookies, not because
yes,
it's for a bake sale, but because I just wanted some cookies. And that's like
yes,
so fills me. Yeah. Oh, I love that.
yeah. And like, and if we just take baking cookies, it's like you're touching, it's tactile, you have to mix things together. It's like you can
The
just sit
house
there and
smells
watch
good.
the thing
Mhm,
stir, or you could be doing it yourself, or you can count the chocolate, like whatever. There's like
mhm,
so many things about it that can be restful, but again, it's the intention behind it. I'm
mhm.
like, am I making this because I feel obligated, or am I doing this because I like, oh, this is exactly what I need. Some people love washing dishes. I am not one of those people, but some people do love washing dishes, and it's like really restful and meditative for them. So you have to like figure out what those things are for yourself, and you're probably doing them already. It's just calling it like, oh, this is
Yeah.
rest. Like being like we talked about naming your amygdala. It's
Yeah.
like the same thing. It's like, oh, because otherwise, you think that you're not resting all the time, and then you're beating yourself up for not resting because you're not sitting still long enough to call it rest. Like, no, no, no. Like, the 17 things that you just did were actually restful for you. So that counts as rest.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I I was like trying to come up with a really fast the only thing that's coming to my brain is, what is your takeaway from today? Like we had some cool conversations with each other today. What's it something you're taking away from this conversation?
I wish that more people, when they tell you their ADHD supports, would stop just recommending therapy groups because it's actually just fun to hang out with other ADHDers without turning it into therapy. Although
Hmm.
it does get a little loud and a little fast, but it doesn't need to be a chore. It should be an actual entertainment.
I like that. Becky?
I it's funny when you said that, Kate. I was like, and ADHDers. Usually, there's a lot of interrupting. Some of my favorite coworkers are also ADHD, and we just ping pong off of each other. And I worked hard on my active listening today, and it was lovely. Um, and I think working on my active listening, just the listening to the other stories too. Like I said, I saw so much of myself in some of your journeys, and so much of my son in your journeys, and it gives me a lot to think about. So just continuing to share stories and listen to stories.
Hmm. Well, for you, Matt.
I think it's always just an amazing reminder to understand that while we're all incredibly different people, we are incredibly the same. And I think it's always just like it's the best reminder in the entire world to just remember that we are not alone. You're right. There is so much out there that should not be therapized, however we want to word it that way. Just people need to be around the people that they are comfortable with. Because I think what's interesting, one of my favorite parts about being around people with ADHD all day, and I could say the same thing about this call, is that everyone here is normal to me. This is, every time that somebody here has kind of started rocking back and forth, or they started talking a little bit too fast or something like
I have
that,
my fidget.
it's just a world that I am just having, like, I love that I'm a part of, and I love every excuse to be reminded that this is okay for when anybody gives me that you talk too fast. Yeah, you definitely didn't think about that all the way through. Little things like that. It's like, oh, I did. It's just I'm different than you, and it's okay. And I like being reminded of that. So that's always something that I take away from conversations like this.
Hmm. I I love that this episode felt like none of you apologized for yourself once in the best way. Like, ordinarily, I witness ADHDers apologize for themselves over and over and over again for existing or doing a thing or that. I mean, I guess Matt did apologize for speaking a lot about his story, which okay. But we needed it. Like it obviously was here to be present. And so like not having to be apologetic about who you are, right? Like you get to be exactly who you are. And I just love that. Yeah.
Thank you for creating spaces where we can, because I really try not to put myself in places where I feel like I have to apologize anymore. So thank you for creating a space that we could just show up and fidget and talk quickly.
Yes.
Absolutely. And by the way, I'm sitting really still for me.
I mean, I'm in these calls all day, every day, and one of my favorite things to point out to people is I get a comment that I sit really still, and I always tell people, I'm like, I fidget the entire time. The difference is that I just fidget with my shoes. I literally just take them off and put them back on, and that's all I ever mess around with. And everyone goes, "Wow, you sit so still." And I'm like, if you looked at me from this end, you'd realize I'm being pretty weird, but it looks great through Zoom.
No, I say if I fidget too. While I don't have ADHD, I am probably neurodivergent in some way that's not known yet. But
A little spicy.
I've had this for 30 years, which is insane. It's a toy that my mom got for us when I was a kid, so that would be quiet church. Um, but I've had it ever since, and because it's so old, it's quieter than like the new ones because they make that noise. So I don't play with the new ones on Zoom calls. Anyway, thank you so much for being here. I think that I can speak for everyone that if you heard something from someone that you want to connect with, their information is going to be below after we're done being live. So make sure you click on it, follow them, or send them a message if you're needing some support about a thing or want to connect about something. We would love to hear from you. Thanks for being here today, everyone.
Thank you.